Hi guys, I'm Kristen. Welcome and welcome back. So I want to go into this year reading-wise with a little bit more intention of what I plan to pick up. I don't have as much time to think and plan in the moment, and sometimes that leads to me reading really random books that just happen to be available on Scribd or at the library that I don't actually really have that much interest in reading, or I have only a mild interest in reading, and it doesn't always lead to the best reading year. I definitely feel that way about, some of the months towards the end of last year and just overall last year in general. I also find that sometimes I get distracted away from series that I'm actively enjoying, where there are books available to continue reading in that series, and I just for whatever reason I don't pick up the next one, and I get distracted on other random things. So to go into this year with a little more intention, I made up a list of 24 books that I would like to read in 2024. This is perfect. It's 2 books that I'm committing to a month that I would like to read. My thought process is that I'm just gonna put them all, either save them on Scribd or put them on hold in the library right now. Some of them are going to be a little bit more difficult to get a hold of. And then just when they become available, read them. To stop hitting postpone on books that I actively want to read, and just read the books that I know that I want to read. So I've got the list divided up into a few different categories. I'm not going to say too much about them. Let's get into it. The first category are sequels that I want to read. So these are my priority series that I would like to continue reading on in, that I've already started. I want to prioritize picking up the next book. There are lots of series that I have on the go where this could be the case, and you can check out my series update that I made last fall. These are not all of those books, but I've picked five. Yeah. I picked 5 series that I would really like to pick up the next book. I'm going to prioritize continuing on in that series this year. First of which is The Legends of the First Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. So I think the next book, I'm on book number 2, is Age of Sword. I read the first one, Age of Myth? I don't even remember. In June or July of last year. Really loved it. Don't know why I didn't pick up the next one. I'm going to do that now. Brief keywords there would be that this is a 6-book series with 2 separate 3-book arcs from what I imagine. It is a prequel series for the Rhaenyra Revelations, which I would also like to read at some point. I did not put that as on my list. It's too many books. The second series is another book that I read that same month that I also really liked. This is a completed trilogy, which I can also just continue on with. I don't remember the name of the second book, so I'm going to pop it up, obviously, but this is the First Sister series by Lyndon A. Lewis, I believe. This one was more of a sci-fi. It was set in our solar system, though, so it was sci-fi that worked for me because it was relatable. Known entities, known planets. There was something about the sci-fi elements in this book that were really, really approachable for me. So I'm going to pick up that next book, book number 2 in that series as well. And both of these were also audiobooks that worked really well for me. So I'm continuing on with my audiobook listening. The third series here that I would like to continue on in is the Tawny Man series. I think I'm on book number 2 of that, which I think is The Golden Fool. And this is a series that I was reading with Maria, and Maria wasn't loving it. And so we kind of paused, and that was 2 Januaries ago, I think. It was a while ago. This is technically a reread, but it was so long ago, and I have trauma blocked my experience of reading all of the Fitz books. But I do really, really enjoy them, so I would like to continue on with that series. An unstated doesn't count as the 21st, any of the 24 books other than The Golden Fool. But yes, I would also like to continue taking away at the rest of the realm of the Elderlings. Series number 4 is the Greenbone Saga. I never finished Jade Legacy. I read the first 2 books in this series the year before last. I paused on Jade Legacy because I was waiting for Taylor to catch up for me because of our specific project that we were going to do, which then we never ended up doing it because our lives got busy in other ways. And so now I have to read Jade Legacy. And then the 5th and final series that I would like to continue reading on, or the next sequel that I would like to read, is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. I read the 5th season, I think maybe the last year or the year before last. And I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite thing ever, but I am curious to see where the rest of the series go. I have heard that the second book is very different, so I'm aware of that, but just curious to see what happens from here. So those are the 5 series that I would like to continue reading or prioritize continuing on in that series to slowly keep ticking away at the ongoing series that I have. Counter to finishing series is my next category of series that I would like to start. Usually every year I come up with a list of like priority series that I would like to start. It only means I have to pick up the first book in the series. I don't necessarily have to continue on with it, but it's series that I would like to try out. I only have 4 books in this category, but admittedly there are other like series starts in other categories that I have here. But let's just start off with these 4 priority series. The first series that I have on this list was one that was also on my series to start or priority series from last year that I just didn't end up getting to, and that's The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. This is of course the Dandelion Dynasty. Everyone for the most part really loves it. I wanted to read it. I just want like the time and mental space to really dedicate to it because it is I think like a more of a thinker, thick, chunky, slow-moving series, I think. I'm not certain that I'll have that time this year, but I also am okay with slowly reading a book. But this is one that I would obviously really get to. From the things that people say, I think that I will generally do well with it, but we'll see. This second book, the second series that I would like to start this year, is also one that was on my list for last year, and I would have read the first book if it hadn't been ever become available at the library. This is the First Law series by Joe Abercrombie. I think the first book is called The Blade Itself. I'll pop that up here. I'll also pop up my spot in hold at the library. I got on hold for this library book last January when I put this on my series to start then. And I'm still waiting. I don't know why my library has such a ridiculously insignificant amount of books. There's no ebook available. It's just this audiobook. I think there's like 4 copies. I started out, it still doesn't even give me like a realistic timeline. It just says several months as it has all of last year. So I'm a little bit more open to exploring other avenues of getting a hold of this first copy this year. I'm actually going to go as well to see my local library, which I still haven't signed up for. I'm going to sign up for here and see if they have more copies. Series number 4 is one that I honestly don't know anything about. I've only heard a couple people casually mention it, and that is, the series is called The Song of the Shattered Sands. The first book is 12 Kings in Sherakai. Sherakai, the great city of the desert, center of commerce and culture, has been ruled from time immemorial by 12 kings. Cruel, ruthless, powerful, and immortal, with their army of silver spears, their elite company of blade maidens, and their holy defenders, the terrifying Asurim, the kings uphold their positions as undisputed, invincible lords of the desert, until Seda, a brave young woman from the west, and Slums defies the king's laws by going outside on the holy night of Bet Zaire. What she learns that night sets her on a path that winds through both the terrible truth of the king's mysterious history and the hidden riddles of her own heritage. I'm going to stop there. There's only one more sentence. Desert fantasy. I'm going to check it out. And then the 4th and final series that I'm going to prioritize starting or picking up this year. Again, there are others in other categories, but the ones that are like just the series, and that is the Covenant of Steel series by Anthony Ryan. The first book is The Pariah. Now, I read Bloodsong and the second book, Tower Lord, by Anthony Ryan in that series, and really enjoyed it. Just haven't gotten around to the third book, and really at this point I have to reread the first 2. But I have had my eye on The Pariah since it came out, and I would like to pick it up this year. I like Anthony Ryan's writing, and I liked his characters. I think this one is more of a morally gray, grim kind of a character compared to Valen from Raven Shadow. So I would like to check that out. The next category that I have the books divided into is new authors to try. Now again, some of these are also going to be new series starts. I think like all of them are going to likely be a new series start as well. But the idea here was that it was an author that I wanted to try, not necessarily a specific book. The first of which it is a specific book, and that is Louis McMaster Bujold with The Curse of the Chalian. And this is something that Maria read recently. I think also Kate has read it and both really liked it. I know this author has also written some sci-fi books as well that I think that's the series that Angela from Literature Science Alliance was also like reading through and loving last year. I'm more likely to like the fantasy than the sci-fi, but I am open to reading their sci-fi. But I want to try out this author, very new to me, and I'm excited to give them a go. Next up would be Rob J. Hayes. This one is going to be more challenging because I believe his books are indie or self-published, and they're not available on either I'm going to say Scribd, but what's the new thing called? Everend, or at my library. So this one is going to take a little bit of work to get a hold of. And this could be either his Along the Razor's Edge series or Never Die, both of which I have heard many people talk about, many booktubers talk about, and they've been books that I have wanted to try for a while. So whichever I can get a hold of there, I'm going to try to pick something up by Rob J. Hayes this year. Mercedes Lackey is like the original new author that I want to try that I have never actually tried. And that's because way back when I would want to expand out of my, 3 authors that I read from, I would usually Google like authors similar to Juliette Marillier. Mercedes Lackey was always at the top of that list, but they had a huge backlist and I never knew where to start, and so I never ended up picking up something. So this year I'm going to commit some time to finding out where I should start with Mercedes Lackey books. If you have a recommendation, if you've read something by her that you really like, that you think I would like, let me know down below in the comments. And then the 4th and final author that I would like to try this year is Tasha Suri. Technically, I have started a Tasha Suri book, and that was the one with the seance, the young adult one. So I think I read like part of the first chapter one time and wasn't into it in the mood, but I would like to try out some Tasha Suri books this year. I could also check out the Jasmine Throne series, so I'm just gonna like open book either that one or the young adult one, whatever I'm kind of in the mood for, what I have available to me. I'm gonna try out a Tasha Suri book this year too. Okay, the 4th category here, and this is the one that has the most amount of books on it, and that is TBR Vets. These are books that I have wanted to read or have been on my TBR forever, and for whatever reason, I have not picked them up, or for a variety of reasons, let's say, I have not picked them up yet. So this is going to be the year, first of which is, I forgot the book in the other room. I'm not going to go get it, but it's Legacy of the Bright Wash by Crystal Matar. I believe this is self-published, and that is why I haven't been able to read this book. I can't get it at the library, I can't get it on Everend, and that is how I source 99.9% of my books. So I got it for Christmas. It was the only book that I asked for Christmas, and I got it, so I was really excited. I have heard a few people, a very small amount of people, talk about this book, but absolutely rave about it, and I have had people specifically tell me that they think I will really like this book, so I'm very excited to finally pick it up. I will read a little synopsis really quick. Follow the law and you'll stay safe, but what if the law is wrong? Tashu's faith in the law is beginning to crack. 3 years ago, he stood by when the authority condemned Jason to the brutality of the rift. For non-compliance, when Tashu's son refused to register as tainted, the laws had to be upheld. He'd never doubted his job as a regulation officer before, but 3 years of watching your son wither away can break down even the strongest convictions. Then a dead girl washed up on the bank of the Bright Wash, tattooed and mutilated. Where had she come from? Who would tattoo a child? Was it the same person who killed her? Why was he the only one who cared? Will Tashu be able to stand against everything he thought he believed in to get the answers he's looking for? Really excited to finally be able to pick that one up. The next book on this list that I haven't read for the exact same reason, it was originally self-published or indie published, and that is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. Every couple months I check my library or Everend or Scribd at the time to see if it has been bought or purchased, etc. by those sources, and it's never available. So this year I'm going to read this book no matter what. If that means buying this for my birthday, then perhaps that is what I'll do. But I would really like to finally read this book. I know that there is some motherhood elements to it, so hopefully it's not like heartbreaking motherhood elements. I don't know. I would like to give it a go finally. Then we have Illborn by Daniel T. Jackson. I think you're sensing a theme here, and that yes, this is also another self-published or indie published book. However, this one is on Everend. I think I had it saved on Scribd at the time for a really long time. I would like to get to it though. I know that at the time it sounded really good to me, and I, for whatever reason, just never picked it up. I'm going to read something really quickly here. I think the sequel is also out now. So long ago, the Lord Aduel emerged from the deserts of the Holy Land possessed with divine powers. He used these to forcibly unite the peoples of Angal before his ascension to heaven. Over 800 years later, in a medieval world which is threatened by war and religious persecution, 4 young men and women begin to develop supernatural abilities. Next up is Strange the Dreamer by, I think, Laini Taylor. I have not read any books by this author before. I've wanted to read Strange the Dreamer for a while. I had it on like a TBR a couple times, like a specific monthly TBR that I didn't get to. But this is the year. Now, I'm not always in the mood for YA. I do believe this is YA, but I think this is probably going to be a YA that works for me. I've heard the writing is really beautiful. It is a duology, so if I like the first one, I'll be able to read the second one, and then, you know, duologies are always really nice to complete. But yeah, Strange the Dreamer, more of like a, not classic fantasy, but a more back catalog fantasy to check out. Age of Assassins by R.J. Barker. I had this on my Assassins in April, which is a readathon I did in 2021? Not this past year. So yeah, no. 2022? I don't remember. I had this, I wanted to read this when I did that Assassins readathon, whatever April ago that was, and I just didn't get to it that month. And I had this on my list, and it was like I was hemming and hawing between it and another one that I was possibly going to take off. And then I saw Esme put on like this author, specifically I think the last book in this series was one of her standout books from like top 10% books of the year. And I was like, you know what? Yes, I'm going to read this book. It is about an assassin who I think is hired to instead prevent someone from being assassinated. I think it's called the Wounded Kingdom series. I'm going to read Age of Assassins. I'm finally going to do it. I'm pretty sure it was like I made an Assassins readathon because I had like this book and one other assassin book that I wanted to read. And I was like, let's read assassin books for a month. And then I didn't read it. And then finally, the last book in this category is The Throne of Five Winds, which is another book that I wanted to read that month for the Assassins, and I didn't get to it. I've heard this is a really, really thick, chunky book that is a little bit slow moving, which you have to be in a certain mood for. I did have it on my, it was like on one of the pick my next, I think it was a new series to start from last year, and it didn't get picked. But, you know, Legends of the First Empire did, so it wasn't a loss. But I would finally like to pick that up. Final category here is anticipated releases. I really have not paid attention to what is coming out next year. I don't think I'm waiting on a book, or if I am waiting on a book, like it's not one that has a set date in particular series that I am in the middle of. Like, for example, Electo the Ninth. It's coming out in 2024. We'll see. It doesn't have a specific date. So this is a small list. It is by no means don't come to me for your anticipated 2024 releases, at least yet. Perhaps I will look more into it, but this is a very small list of some anticipated releases that I know are coming out this year. The first of which I'm sure you're going to hear everyone talk about because everyone is talking about this book, and that is Fathom Folk by Eliza Chen. From one of fantasy's most exciting new voices, Eliza Chen, comes a modern, myth-inflected story of revolution and magic set against the glittering, semi-submerged city of Tainkawa. Okay, I don't know how to say this city. Welcome to Tainkawi, shining pearl of human civilization and a safe haven for those fleeing civil unrest, or at least that's how it first appears. But in the semi-flooded city, humans are quite literally on peering down from skyscrapers, aerial walkways on the Fathom Folk, sirens, sea witches, kelpies, and kappas who live in the polluted waters below. For half-siren Mirren, promotion to the captain of the border guard means an opportunity to reform. At last, she has the ear of the city council and a chance to lift the repressive laws that restrict Fathom Folk at every turn. But if earning the trust and respect of her human colleagues wasn't hard enough, everything Mira has worked towards is put in jeopardy when a water dragon is exiled to the city. I'll stop there. You can check it out. I'm sure other channels are also going to be talking about this one. I've heard a ton of channels already mention it. That's how I have found out about it. Next up is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This one is a new series start. I believe it is going to be romantasy. I'm seeing new adult here as a possible tag. And this is, I believe, Norse inspired. I do like Danielle Jensen. I really enjoy the Bridge Kingdom series that she's written. I haven't read anything else by her before. A shield maiden blessed by the gods battles to unite a nation under a power-hungry king while also fighting her growing desire for his fiery son. In this Norse-inspired fantasy romance, okay, so pretty clearly romantasy, from the best-selling author of the Bridge Kingdom series. Bound in an unwanted marriage, Freya spends her days gutting fish but dreams of becoming a warrior and of putting an axe in her boorish husband's back. Freya's dreams abruptly become a reality when her husband betrays her to the region's Jarl, landing her in the fight to the death against his son Bjorn. That's the love interest, right? To be determined. I'm not going to read anymore. That's where I'll stop. Then we have The Undermining of Twyla and Frank, and this is by Megan Brannon. I read The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy when that came out. I didn't like it as much as I wanted to or as I anticipated, and this is set in the same world, but I think time has passed. So it's not characters. At first I was like, I don't remember there being a Twyla or a Frank, and they're not characters from that book, I don't think. And it's about, I think they're like neighbors and they become rangers together and partner up, and then, maybe sparks fly. I don't know, I want to give Megan Brannon another chance, going into this with like more realistic expectations of like the quirk and to what extent the quirk is going to be explained or described. I'm going to give her another shot. And then we have 2 romance books that are coming out. Big names. These are not by any means like, here, let me tell you about these unique romance books you haven't heard of. One is by Emily Henry, and that's Funny Story. The trope here was that I think it is 2 people whose fiancés left them for each other, and that then maybe they now have a romance. Could be heartbreaking. Emily Henry is always going to have a heartbreaking life crisis kind of element to the book. I enjoy Emily Henry's writing. The last couple were slight, not total wins for me. We'll see if this one works. And then the other one is also a pretty big name. That's Abby Jimenez with Just for the Summer. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Just for the Summer. And I think it is 2 people who kind of have like that good luck Chuck curse where everyone that they date breaks up with them and the person that they date next is their soulmate, or they end up getting married to them. And so these 2, it happens to both of them. And so they decide to date each other and then break up so that they can then find their perfect person afterwards. Of course, they're each other's perfect person, or at least one would assume. And I'm guessing that they have a deal for dating for the summer. Okay, so those are the 24 books that I would like to read this year, or the 24 books that I'm prioritizing reading this year. The first one that comes available to me at the library, I'm just going to read it. I also do have some saved already on Scribd, and there's a couple that I might have to be a little bit more crafty in how I get a hold of these. Do you have like a very specific list of books that you're going to like prioritize, whether that's, series that you want to start this year, series that you must finish this year, TBR Vets that you are finally going to get to because this is the year that you're going to do it? Let me know down below. I can't wait to see what you guys have planned for your reading years. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day. Bye. No, Poppy. No, you can't